Season 3 of You and Me Kid is brought to you by Seattle Sperm Bank. If you're planning to become a single parent by choice, you know this journey can be both exciting and daunting. That's where Seattle Sperm Bank comes in. They've got an amazing selection of donors and a super supportive team ready to help you find the right match. They were so warm, helpful, and kind to me as I picked my donor. I cannot recommend them enough. From the screening process to all the resources they offer, I really felt like I had an expert partner through the whole process. For my listeners who want to check them out, head to seattlespermbank.com and grab a free all-access pass using the code YouAndMeKid to start your search today. Welcome to Season 3 of You and Me Kid, a podcast about starting and raising a family on your own, where I speak with other single moms, those still considering, and experts in relevant fields to give you a real sense of what the day-to-day experience of solo parenting looks and feels like. So wherever you are in the process, I hope this podcast provides some support, helpful info, and most importantly, humor. Thanks so much for listening. Now let's get to it. Miss Emma. Emma, I have to give a little background before we start chatting about doulas and what they are and just demystifying this whole world for everyone listening.
Yes.
You and I met because my lovely group of friends, prior to me having a baby, put together a small fund for me with its incredible company here in Boulder in the Denver area called Sanctuary Doulas, which is Colorado's largest maternal and infant health team. And the idea, I think, behind them putting together that fund was that I would get like day support from doula support or overnight support. And pretty quickly, I realized living in a tiny, tiny, tiny house that night support wasn't really what I needed. And what I really needed was a little bit of day support and then to have the ability to be creative around who else I invited in as Ellie got older. And you were, I think, the second doula that came in and have since then become, every time I talk about you to people, I'm like, everyone's like, oh, Emma the doula. And I'm like, yeah, but she's no longer a doula to Ellie and I. She's like, you're just like part of the team. You're a very important part of my family team and my ability to leave town, sometimes the country, and my kiddo adores you. So we've transitioned from Emma the doula, even though that's what everyone calls you in my world, to you just being a pretty essential part of our unit.
It means so much to me. That's a dream come true.
Well, what I really want to do is just kind of start a little bit with the basics, because this world of doulas, the word doula is thrown around all over the place. I think especially here in Boulder, there's a lot of folks, especially single moms, who are like, I need an overnight doula. I need a this. I need a that. And so let's just start at the beginning. What is a doula? What are the types of doulas?
Yeah, great question. So a doula is something that has been around for many, many years. And in a lot of other countries, it remained a big piece of having children. And in the United States, we kind of isolated our families a little bit more as you moved away from families and started your own families in communities where you didn't know anyone. And so the need for doulas, there, in my opinion, has always been a need for doulas, but it has become more of a resurgence in the United States, especially with the lack of incredible women's healthcare. And so it's kind of like the community effort, honestly, to take back what a lot of us do really well, which is just taking care of our community, and specifically parents going through the big transition of becoming a parent. And now the role of a doula has evolved a lot. So a lot of people often think of a birth doula, which is somebody who accompanies you through being pregnant, in your perinatal time, and is with you through your entire birthing process, however you end up having a baby. And then there's what's called a postpartum doula, who jumps in after the birth doula kind of steps back, and baby is here on the outside and helping you just get through the fourth trimester. And, I believe that postpartum never really comes to an end. So there's always room to be supporting parents, and especially single parents. You need a community. We all function better in community. We're not supposed to live in isolation. It's the need for human touch, the need for human connection is so vital to all periods of life, and then especially when you're going through a new transition. And then there's also now death doulas. So somebody very similarly, it's these big life transitions who's there to walk beside you. They're not a medical provider, but they are very much an emotional provider and a physical provider of support. So whether it's, on your way out of this world or entering this world, there's somebody who can walk beside you in that journey. So yeah, that's kind of the short gist of what
Yeah,
a doula
I love
does
that you
and
said
what a
it's a
doula
community
is.
effort. I also feel like there's a little bit of separation between, okay, I've got maybe my OB, I've got my medical team, and then the doula is like this person who's kind of just there with me. But you guys go through an intense training. Tell me about your
Yes.
training and expertise.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just more and more research is coming out about how isolating the experience of parenthood is, how lonely it can be. You're trying to relearn maybe yourself and your partner, if there's a partner involved, who they are as a parent and who you are as a parent. I mean, you're all going through the portal together. Yeah, it's a total community effort. And the doula is there, like you were saying, we're not medical providers. So it's like having, your family member there, but it's a neutral family member. It's somebody who doesn't carry, historical baggage and who doesn't have, they're paid to be there. So they're like your best friend, but they're just there to support everything you need. And again, they're not bringing in their own experiences unless those are helpful and applicable. So if somebody who can be just supporting you as a person, like when it's in birth, there's a lot of people who are there to take care of all of the medical things that need to be addressed during birth. But then somebody who just can be there by your side, whether you're doing it by yourself or whether your partner, it's just not their strength to be in the intensity of birth. And then in postpartum, there's a lot of things happening. You're trying to figure out, how do you balance it all? How do you do your life just the way it was, but times 10 with responsibility? And so the doula can normalize things you're experiencing in just an extra set of hands. You can get the sleep that you need, food that you need, get the exercise that you need, community building you need. A reality that there's people in your community, whether it's your doula that you hired or whether it's a friend and you just know better how to speak to them about how they can support you in this. And then you can go on as a supported parent and support other parents. And I think that it does really build on itself. And the more that we normalize jumping in and saying parenthood is hard, let's not pretend it's anything but that. How can you be most supportive? I don't necessarily need you to come in and hold my infant. I'm happy to hold my infant. What I don't want to do is take the trash out. I don't want to put another meal on the table for myself and my baby. So they're there to do all of those things. And again, it's taking, if there was any baggage coming in from parents who might come in or from friends or, in other places in the world, medical providers come to the home. And we don't have very much of that, especially not very much of it financially accessible to people in the United States. So the doula is that interim, to bridge going from being in the hospital setting, if you gave birth in a hospital, to being at home and making sense of the days that kind of run together in the beginning.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about what a normal visit for you looks like. And I know that's varied, but before we get to that, you made a great point earlier, which is like there's this birth doula component. And that's, I think, what people usually think of when they think of doula, someone that's going to be there in their birth. And then this post-birth back at home when society tells us we should be totally great and super happy. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's the assumption that there's all these people around. But what you do, and I think what a lot of doulas do, and I think what Sanctuary really excels in, is this space of having a handful of options for what moms need. So day visits, overnight visits, there's nutritional support. You guys cook for your clients sometimes. Mm-hmm. As you said, you're always doing little stuff around the house, mm-hmm. When there's time. And then beyond that, you get into some more specific expertise like breastfeeding support, sleep support, massage therapy, some mental health counseling. So there's this wide array of options with Sanctuary And for me, there's two things that just feel so warm about that experience. One is you guys are taking a look at the whole picture. And in postpartum, our brains don't work. We're exhausted. We may be super happy. We may be having a hard time. But at the end of the day, you can't see the forest through the trees in that stage. To have somebody, as you said, who's neutral and non-judgmental coming in and asking the right questions, because you might not even know that you have postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety, or you might not even know you're having problems breastfeeding because you think that it being really, really hard is the norm, right? So it's just that third person coming in and taking this really warm and not judgmental view of everything that's happening and offering the support that each mama needs in their own way.
Yeah. I think it also, oftentimes we can read a book about an experience and try to apply it to our lives. But what I think a doula does really well, and what Sanctuary Doulas does really well, is the doulas coming in and they're looking at your individual family dynamic. Whatever you are working with, your living space, your financial means, your community support, your nutritional needs. They're seeing just you and saying, how do we make your scenario thrive? Not compared to anybody else's standard of that. What is it that is working? What is it that isn't working? And how can we just get your family to a place of feeling competent, confident, and that you can weather the storms that are inevitable? And just making you realize how much nobody knows your infant better than you do, as much as it feels like there's no manual for this. I have never done it before, but it's helping build parents' confidence and trust that they can access the resources that they need, that they can seek community, even from those whose parenting experience was so not alike theirs. There are so many similarities. It's hard, it's lonely, a lot of work, overwhelming, it's joyful, it's all of it all at once. And I think that doulas just are able to hold that for individuals and to say, no matter what this day looks like, we can get to another day and we can keep putting one foot in front of the other and building up a tolerance for the ups and downs and the normalizing of the ups and downs. And I think you said it so well. I feel like oftentimes the inattention that parents get from society the moment they leave a hospital and the moment they've given birth, it's like everybody wants to touch your pregnant belly. But as soon as baby's here, it's a lot of focus on baby, but almost none on what's it really feel like to you? And really like, how can we help you be the best parent that you want to be? It's not as simple as, just holding the baby so you can go and do something. It's really building up the parents themselves so that they know anything on the table is something that they can tackle.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And you mentioned one kind of statistic earlier, and I think it's important while we're chatting to just touch on that, because having this third party in your home to normalize what's going on with you, and that doesn't necessarily mean like saying you're fine and everything is okay, like normalizing sometimes the challenges that exist. And the data really, I think, backs up having somebody like this and the huge impact that someone like a doula can have. There are a huge percentage of women who have postpartum depression and anxiety that goes completely undiagnosed. They may not even know what it is or the signs to look out for it. So many mamas are going back into the hospital for their own health issues post-birth. And all of the research points to, just one or two or a few visits from someone like a doula really preventing those return visits to the hospital. And as you said, it's like making those mamas normalize, like, hey, this is you having the baby blues, you having anxiety, you feeling like a totally different person mentally, like that is actually the norm. So how do we work through it?
Right. And I think that oftentimes the care that we are, quote unquote, providing for our parents requires a lot of effort from them, to get out of the house, load the infant up into the car seat, drive to the professional, hopefully baby is tolerating that visit at all, so you can even focus and be there with them. But being able to bring the care into your home, into your environment, making you as comfortable as possible, making your home feel like a space where you guys all thrive. It's so intimate, but it's such intimate time. To make it anything else is just not true.
Yeah. Yeah, gosh, the like bundling the baby up to go anywhere it's such a big deal at that stage. So talk me through a normal visit. Like what could the spectrum of what you're doing when you walk in the door for a client look like on any given day?
So if I'm doing a day visit, I'm really coming in and I'm thinking, what if mom had 4 arms and a sleeping baby, could she accomplish in this 4-hour visit and would be helpful for her to accomplish? And I want to take care of all of those things that just kind of nag at the back of you. Like, I want to change those sheets so you can be cozy in bed, because it's often a lot of time in bed and there's like a lot of milk and there's a lot of other fluids. And how can one simple sheet change, it's not something you want to be doing as you're recovering from birth, but really make a difference, bump into a clean set of sheets. I want to clean out the fridge or make sure that you've got like front snacks that are really one hand you could eat with, because you're going to be holding a baby. I want to make sure that you've got diaper stations set up everywhere, because nobody wants to do stairs. And just realizing that a lot of intention is put in pregnancy, but once baby's here, you're looking around thinking, none of this actually works the way I've set it up. Like, we aren't moving off the couch. I'm not cooking any of those freezer meals. Like, I'm eating snacks all day, every day. So let's make sure all the snacks you have are easy to eat. They are, the spectrum of nutrients that you need. Let's make sure that the remote is like really easy and you're not going to lose it when you want to be grabbing it. How do we just make you thrive in the space that you're in? We're going to talk about all the things. We're going to maximize the way you want to feed your baby, make sure that that's going well, and to get you the resources that you need for however you're feeding your baby. We're going to make sure that you're getting rest. So oftentimes, what's most accessible to families, or maybe feels the most comfortable, is having a day visit. But at night, a lot of up and down. You're just not getting really sound rest. And even when you are sleeping, kind of 2 ears open, one eye open, listening for baby and ready to jump up and tend to them. So have a safe, trusted person in your house, care for your baby so you can get really deep, restorative napping sleep. Can really set a parent up for success for the next couple of hours that they have to get through when they're doing it by themselves, or while their partner is sleeping, they're on, and vice versa. So I'm making sure that you are I'm nurturing you. I'm nurturing your home. I'm nurturing, your ability to heal and to integrate everything that's happening in these changes. Cleaning, making sure the trash is taken out, making sure dishes are loaded into the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, keeping that treadmill going. All the stuff that it's the last thing you want to think about, and it stacks up so fast when you have no free hands and no free time.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. I was talking to another single mama that's been on the pod the other day around, like, we wait for those moments that we know we're going to get to recharge. It doesn't take that much.
Right.
Like, you coming to my house for 3 hours the other day gave me enough time for me to get almost everything I needed to get done so that I felt like I was ahead of the game. It doesn't take that long.
Yes.
We don't get those pockets. And so scheduling those pockets, or preemptively scheduling a doula to come in before the baby comes, like, you're going to have something to do during that time, whether it's
100%
having the doula help you with breastfeeding support, or getting a good nap, or taking a long shower, or filling out the paperwork that you need to, or a job, or for your healthcare, or the things that pile up, because you don't get to do those little things. Like, for me, it was like, I just have to take all this Amazon stuff out because I need my space to be clean for my sanity, right? And all the gifts. For everyone, I think it's really different. And I also think what you guys do, and I want to hit on this too, is that non-judgmental piece is so key, because you guys, I think, really clue into what each mama wants and what seems important to them. And I think there's a misconception around doulas that potentially they're on like the woo-woo side of parenting choices. Like, you must breastfeed, or you must this. That is not what you do. That is not what Sanctuary does at all.
Right.
I think you guys are so respectful of individual choices, individual culture, and just really
Yes.
making sure that people feel like they can do what they want to do and what feels right to them.
Yes. Yes. I mean, my whole purpose in work as a doula is to just help parents feel like themselves and like that they have all the resources that they need for everything that's to come. And to me, that seems fundamental that you need your culture respected. You need the ways that are just, it's not like if I were to come in and recommend a whole bunch of stuff, I'm totally unhelpful if that is not what you're doing.
Yeah.
It just made it worse. It made you feel like, great, now I have to work that stigma because that's not our dynamic. And you're already up against so many things. I mean, out in the world, it's hard. It's hard to be a parent. You feel like the other parents are watching the way you're parenting at the playground. And then you're walking through your day thinking, is it good enough? I mean, we're always questioning because we're trying so hard. But to have someone come in and say, what you have going on here is enough. Your baby and you can thrive. This is enough. Babies all over the world are thriving in all kinds of conditions. This is enough. Yeah. And let me show you why it is. Like, we've got food, we're getting sleep, we've got emotional support, we have community. It's all possible for anybody of any means. They just need a doula. They need somebody who to come in and say, I can show you how you do have access to that. And I will help you get access to that. And like you said, no matter what the parent needs the support with, if it's like studying to get a driver's license, that's it would be a real leg up for a parent to have a driver's license, to be able to drive to the appointments, but how can you study for a driver's license with a brand new baby? So all these things can really build up. But like you said, if you have 3 hours, somebody who can just help you knock out a ton, because their only focus is making you thrive right now. Whatever it is, whatever is on the table today, that you're not alone, that you don't have to overcome all of these massive obstacles by yourself. And hopefully the modeling of, you had somebody come in and support you, so you feel like you're more resourced to be able to go help somebody else out, even if it's an hour. And then that friend's like, you know what really set me up well? My friend came over and like they did all the dishes and cleaned out my fridge. And now I got an hour of sleep and I was a better parent for it. And I can go take care of another parent now. It's the tiniest things that can really just make you feel like you're not drowning. And that's really what you need.
You and I were talking about this the other day, actually. I just took a trip with another family. Ellie and I took our first global trip, and it was really, I learned a lot of things and picked up all these amazing kind of traveling tips from the family that I was with. But as I was driving home from the airport, the thing that was hitting me the most about the trip was how many small kindnesses were a part of that trip for all of us. And as a single mom, having my friend Becca just make me a coffee in the morning and hand it to me, or she went to the grocery store when she was making a grilled cheese, she made one for Ellie. And that like hit me really hard emotionally coming out from the airport. And that is what you do. It is part of what you guys do, is just like wrapping that person in this community of like, what do you need? You need me to get your cell phone charger and your coffee and bring it to you and let you take a shower and change your sheets? Like, I have a 2.5-year-old and that sounds amazing.
Totally.
It's like those small kindnesses are everything when your brain doesn't work. And like your brain in this period, I feel like for so many moms, like you're not really in control of it.
Oh, absolutely not.
So to think, that you could be like, oh, of course I can get that done because I could get that done before. My brain's going to work the same. That's not at all true. So those little things of like a very small decision, a very small task, it might feel insane to be like, I just haven't gotten this done in 4 days, like changing the sheets. But you guys coming in takes that load off. Let's talk a little bit about postpartum anxiety and depression, because as we know, over 25% of mamas get it. It's very normal. It's something I think should be talked about more, so mamas can at least get a sense of like, wait, I'm not feeling like myself. What is this? What are you looking for? What do you see in mamas that you think are kind of navigating that? Talk me through what that might feel like for somebody.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I think that the reason why a lot of mamas don't go and get the support they need is because there's a minimization of well, sure, I'm anxious. Like I have a infant that I've never cared about anything more, and they're quite fragile. That adds up to anxiety. And it's true. But you don't have to do any level of anxiety alone. Every bit of struggle deserves support. And any amount of anxiety or postpartum depression deserves support. And there is a huge amount of hormone shifting. It's what I'm looking for is when those shifts are not alleviated. So when you're finding that my anxiety is kind of like it's building on itself. I'm not coming out of it. I'm not feeling like, yeah, I saw that work out. Like baby is sleeping well. Okay. We're 3 months old now. I'm feeling a little bit more safe about it. It's like you're getting more and more trapped inside your anxiety, and it's building, and it's causing you to isolate more, and it's causing you to separate yourself from other people's experience instead of coming together with other people's experience. Same with the postpartum depression, is that the weepiness is expected. Like, let that happen, let that be true. But are you finding that it lifts, or are you finding that it's kind of closing in, that things that brought you joy are not bringing joy, that it feels more overwhelming than it does feel fulfilling or satisfying to care for your infant. It feels like there's a sense of dread or of doom or of genuine fear about how you feel. And I think a lot of moms are afraid to say, I'm super afraid right now, because again, society puts it like mothering is the most natural thing for women to do. And it's like, that can be
float around the house with your infant.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you're like, please tell me that it's so scary to hold a very fragile baby. That is real. Everybody's afraid, and fear is normal, but it doesn't have to be isolating. We can get you everything you need so that you can feel the fear and also feel the confidence, and like ride that flow state versus drowning in it and feeling like, I don't want to talk about this because that makes me, quote unquote, a bad parent, that this isn't fun for me and that I'm not loving every second of it, or that I don't feel like myself and I'm kind of feeling regretful about this. It's okay. It's okay. I mean, there's a huge, I just like to normalize that there's grief and joy exist all at the same time. And there's a ton of grief that's very valid for not living the life you lived pre-baby anymore. It doesn't mean you're not happy to be a parent. It doesn't mean that you're not going to take really good care of your kiddo, but you can still be like totally bummed out that it's a lot more complicated to go out with your girlfriends. That's grief. I mean, you should be bummed. That's a bummer. And it's multifaceted. So if you're able to, I'm looking for, to see the signs of a mama looking like, or a dad, anybody, any parent who is feeling like there's a level of normal that you aren't going to feel totally like yourself. But if you're not returning to a sense of, this is the new me and I'm comfortable in this space, if it's just a feeling of doom and despair and overwhelm and like you can't catch your breath and you can't get ahead, then you need more. You need more support.
Yeah. And for mamas who don't have a doula, if your pediatrician or your OB are not asking those questions, that's who you should tell. Their therapist or anyone, really. Tell somebody about it. If you don't have a doula that's looking out for that. And then in terms of kind of the specificity, the other thing that I think is like borderline laughable is the thought that a postpartum mama would have enough information and wherewithal to know that she's going through postpartum depression or anxiety, and then also have the time and the bandwidth to maybe like seek out that mental health support if you don't already have a doula or a therapist. Like that's so impossible.
Yeah,
we're throwing it out the window. Like there's no way a mama would have time, especially potentially a single mama who doesn't have someone else in her home as a mirror, a partner saying, hey, you're like, are you okay? You may be alone a lot of the time. And so having a doula or somebody that you know and knows you and you trust come over that you can talk to
Yes.
about it is so, 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 so key. And the flip side of that, and I think you guys are also really good at this, is sometimes as a single mom, the community can be overwhelming post-baby.
Definitely.
Everyone wants to come visit. Everybody wants to come help, which pre-birth, you're like, yes, this is great. I'm going to be so supported. But post-birth, you might not want, or especially if you're
Right.
not in a really great mental place. The last thing you want is to have to put on a fake
Yes.
attitude of, oh, I'm loving it and it's just so amazing and we're just snuggling all day. And so then that isolation gets worse, right? Or you're coming up with excuses not to see people. And so I think there's this balance of letting in the people that are going to support you, not letting in the entire world if that's not what you need, but letting in like a doula or a you to come in, who is always going to be easy. There's no judgment. You never have to act like anything else other than yourself. If you want to cry the whole time, great. Like invite those people in, and the rest of the world can wait.
Yeah. And I say, line that person up, before baby even has arrived and say, I don't know how I'm going to feel about people in my space, but if you can text me once a week and just say, hey, mama, how's your mental health doing?
Oh, I love that idea.
Is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything that would make a difference right now? Or without even asking, just say, hey, mama, want to make sure your mental health is doing well. So I've already placed a Postmates order for you.
Yeah.
Or, hey, please leave some dirty laundry on the porch. I'll run to the laundromat, do it, and bring it back. Because I just know dirty laundry makes everybody upset. No, like do it for your friends and also set somebody up. You want to be dismissing support versus needing to ask for it, because it's already, you've got a baby who has lots of needs and demands. It's very hard to put your needs up there on that table when the baby needs to eat and sleep and all the things all day long on a 24-hour cycle. You're just not, it's not front of mind. So you want someone who is just already, and that's, if it's a doula, if it's a friend, if it's a parent, step parent, with a sibling, who's the person who you need to say, yeah, okay, that's enough support. I'm actually doing fantastic. I would way rather you send support away than need to say, this is a very hard text for me to send, but we're not doing well. And I don't know what it looks like. It's very hard too to ask for support when you don't know what would make a difference, because it's just hard. You just don't feel like yourself, and you just don't know how to get back to feeling like yourself.
Yeah. And there's so much, I think, like I think about pre-baby too, especially as a single mama, and I have an incredible community around me and everyone had great intentions, but like, I had a big group of people who were like, you have to get a night doula or a night nanny. Like you have to, how are you going to do it? Right? Or, well, we have to do a meal train for you because how are you going to do anything? And I knew in my gut, neither one of those things was right for me, but it took a lot of like graceful pushback for folks to actually realize that I knew that wasn't what I needed. I wasn't just being like, oh, I don't want to accept your support. I was really being like, no, I've really thought about it. And these are not the things that I want. Like, please don't drop off like a whole lasagna. Like that doesn't help me. But for some people, that's right. And so I would say holding, if you can, pre-baby, holding those boundaries with people. So as you said, you're getting what you need. I love the idea of having a couple people who are going to text you every few days.
Yeah.
How you doing? And you have promised prior that you will be honest.
Exactly.
Response. And, my brother, who I adore, who doesn't have kids, doesn't have a lot of experience with kids, some very smart mom friend of his told him the best thing he could do to support me as a single mom was just keep asking one question over and over. And that question was, how can I be helpful? And 90% of the time, that means like, hey, can you hand me that coffee cup that's like all the way over to my left? Can you give me my phone charger? Can you it's like access, or I just need two extra arms or something, right? But so often it is the stuff that like when you come over and my kitchen's clean, it's just like, oh my God, I didn't even know I needed that. But I really how can I be helpful? Just opens up this really broad range of, tell me how you're doing and what might help. And how can I lift the weight off a little bit? Because as single parents, we don't have that other person in the house.
Right. Mm-mm.
And
No,
so
you don't have the person who just,
a lot,
yes,
you know, because that baby can't talk back. So it's like, there's no part of being like, oh, I got you, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. The persistency too of asking is so important because a one ask, it's, you know, pretty easy to just muscle memory, be like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you know, one day later, wow, it would be nice if somebody asked me if they could help because I could really use it today. So again, it's the like, dismiss the support. You don't need it, but have the people in your life who are set up to just keep coming to you. And, you know, for instance, instead of saying, I know exactly what you need and it's this, it's like, hey, when I was pregnant, I found somebody changing my bed sheets was really helpful. Would that be a nice thing for me to do for you? Or, you know, hey, like, is food stuff going well? If it is, like, I won't put my energy there. Instead, I could do this for you. Or I could just give you some money to order something out, like your favorite thing, versus I made you this whole, you know, full lasagna. And you're like,
deal sounds like you really like 20. Then like you're eating totally different things at weird hours of the night. And yeah. It is, you kind of mentioned this a little bit when we first started talking, but I do really believe there needs to be a pretty major shift in the way that we support mamas pre and not kind of putting what we think they need, especially single mamas, like on them, but really asking and really listening. And I think that's so much of what a doula does. Because I think it's so important always on the podcast to talk about money. Let's talk about the finances involved with doula services. So you can go as little or as big as you want when it comes to, and I can speak specifically to Sanctuary in terms of the different services you're kind of opting into, the way that those services are spaced out in a really wonderful cadence, pre and post birth. That can be day visits, night visits, massage, nutrition, whatever you need. But what I would say for someone who doesn't know if they need this, and I am interested in your thoughts, is like book a couple, like 2 sessions with a doula, day, night, whatever, because regardless of what's going on with you, that person is going to be there's going to be something you have questions about.
Yeah.
So talk me through, like, what is some of that cost? How should someone think about this financially? And then Sanctuary has this amazing new resource for mamas to make that more affordable. But let's talk about the cost without any subsidy first.
Yeah. So typically, your 4-hour day visit is going to be around $200, give or take. And I like to say, you know, especially if you have to cut back on coffee when you're pregnant, start putting some coffee money aside, and just start, you know, if you can start with the minimum of 1 visit or 2 visits, and just so you can see what you need. If
$500 ask to get you
exactly
2 4-hour sessions with somebody who's going to come in and be able to help you address a wide range of things that might be
and thinking about it, like, if you have any space in your budget to do self-care things, really having a doula when you are fresh postpartum is absolutely self-care. Where would you think about that in another realm that you would do that yourself? Buying a nice outfit, maybe putting clothes on your postpartum body is not what feels super nourishing, or buying new things because you don't know how you're going to fit them later. So have a doula come in who can give you a foot rub and normalize your tears, and you don't need to leave your house and make yourself feel any different than you just do. I say put it on your baby registry. Ask family. Instead of having, you know, your parents fly in, say, really, where we could really use this money, or, you know, where we could really use the support is just somebody neutral in that first couple of weeks. So instead of your plane tickets, can you just have a doula come for, you know, 2 visits for me? And then we'll talk about having the grandparents come in for yada, yada, yada. So put it on your list of needs, and, you know, don't get a diaper pail, get a doula. There's a lot.
I mean, that's crazy, right? Like the diaper pails people get are like $200. I totally agree more with that. For me, the stuff was like a big anxiety, the amount of stuff that was coming in. So thankfully, I think all the registries are being really good about this. I'm seeing it more and more that people are putting babysitting funds or just cash funds to decide what they need. Maybe that is a breastfeeding support or sleep support, where I'm seeing doula funds on a lot more registries, which is great. But it's like, you don't need the stuff.
Right.
Like if you
You
can
really just don't know what. Yeah.
stop the stuff and save this money for what it is you really need, because you're not going to know until you meet this other human.
Yeah.
And you're not going to, and then it's going to change every day. It still changes every day for me.
Totally. And I have so much empathy for, there's a reason why we buy all the stuff. We want to set ourselves up. We want to try to imagine it all being really great on the other side of this. So if I have all of the things that are recommended, I'll be doing really well. And I'm here to tell you, having a doula is one of those things.
Yeah.
Like
I would
you were saying,
a doula support over like the stroller that everyone has, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like,
because it's unlikely that you're going to use that stroller if your mental health is not there. If you just will not be able to thrive. Like you said, the diaper pail is not going to coach you through the night. It's just going to hold the stinky.
And let's be honest, everyone, I mean, I just threw diapers around the house anyway for a long time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thinking that you need like this stuff or the name brand this or the specific type of this thing, I cannot recommend more, just like what you said, putting a little bit of money aside. It's not a lot of money. Even if you go all the way up to like a couple grand, that's going to get you a really nice relationship with a doula.
Yeah.
If $500 or $2,000 is completely not doable for you, which is the case for so many families.
Totally.
What resources are out there? Because we know healthcare is not going to cover this for you. And so what other resources are out there to support mamas if putting aside some money isn't something they can do?
Yeah. Well, a lot of doulas will work on a sliding scale. I say do some research, reach out to, even if you find a doula and they don't mention it, just reach out and explain your circumstance. Most of us we care so much about this work. We don't come into this job for the money. We're here because we love families. We want to see families succeed. We want to see families feel like they can do this. So reach out and just explain your circumstance. Ask for a payment plan if that makes more sense for you. Sanctuary Doulas has an amazing nonprofit they're opening called CARES that offers scholarships. There are other scholarships in other states. The local hospital often has, especially if it's a Trauma One center or the hospital that takes a lot of Medicaid, they might have parenting groups. In those parenting groups, connect with other parents and just even start to build out your own little community. Creating some support, saying, can I just come over while you're over? We both have our infants and we just do the infant thing together. That helps a lot. To have anybody else to bounce it off of.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think this, because you potentially post-baby are not going to have the brain power to do any of this research, in those final stages where you're like, okay, I'm done, like getting my house together, I got the crib, like this could be something you preemptively take 2 hours one afternoon to put some thought into and put those resources in an email to yourself of like, okay, I've got sanctuary doulas here. I've got a couple of other doulas or a couple of people that my OB recommended. I've got a couple of free groups that I know are happening. Or even, gosh, that could be something that a friend could do for you, of just putting that in your inbox.
Absolutely. Postpartum Support International is a great website that also has, there's resources, there's hotlines, a local therapist group, especially that specializes in maternal mental health. They'll have a list of resources as well. Nurse Family Partnership often has access to a lot of support in home and out of home for families. So there are the resources. It does take the effort to do some searching. And so, before baby has arrived or all feels like there's no time in the day, set yourself up that you have the list on your fridge, that you know where you could go get the support you needed.
Yeah, and I think there's this, there are not enough resources even for families who have a low household income. There are more, I think, available, and Nurse Family Partnership being one for those families. And then full doula services are very expensive. So that's, a very specific type of family type. And then there's this huge percentage of folks in the middle who need the support, would benefit from the support, but it's not going to be in the budget. And so
Yes.
reaching out to all of these resources, because you're in that kind of forgotten middle space when it comes to healthcare and some of these kind of community resources, is huge. But I think you and I are just on similar pages in terms of our passion for this. And I think
Definitely.
just assume you're going to need something, because I know that you will. And even in my case, like, even to this day, you come over and you just saying like, oh, that's normal. And I've worried about it for 2 weeks, right? It's like that sentence alone is worth whatever I was paying. It's like my friend saying that, you saying that. Like, I think there's just so much that we let ourselves spin around about in parenting. And it could be something that started in our own head. It could be something we saw in the news or on Google, or some mom said to us on the playground, like you said, right? And so having someone like you guys be able to come in and just be like, no, you got this. Do this your way. Yeah. There's no, as my best friend says, there's no right way to eat a Reese's. And I think about on the really tough days too, it's like, my child has a full belly and she's going to bed in a safe house in a warm bed. And some days that's it, because we had a really rough day, or I did a lot of screen time, or we were off our game. And at the end of the day, as you said, it's like really focusing on like, what does my child need, and are they getting it? And what do I need, and am I getting it? And those things are sleep, water, food, love.
Exactly. It's like Maslow's hierarchy. You just got to go from, you got to have that baseline before you can even start to think about what's the perfect meal to have. It's just like, we just need a meal. We just need some calories. Well, sure, I would love 8 hours uninterrupted sleep, but I need 2. I need 2 hours uninterrupted. Like, strip it down and remember that you're raising a human. It's a huge job. It's the biggest job. And I makes me think when you were like, can you just hand me that phone charger? Of course, that's what you need. Your whole system is having to focus on an entire other human. We never do that in our lives until we're parents. And of course, you do not have a free hand to do the little things. It shouldn't even be something you need to explain or justify. It's like, I just need you to hand me the water. I've had a baby strapped to my body for 24 hours now.
Yeah, when school started, I was always dehydrated. I was always like not feeding myself. Because there's only 2 hands, and it is hard to do any of those like basic things of just, water, food, sleep, interaction. For moms who are listening who are in Denver or Boulder area, you can go to Sanctuary Doulas and check out all of their services. There are listeners all over the country and internationally as well. The best thing to do would be just Google local doula services. Anything else people can do to just find a local resource? Talk to your OB.
Definitely. Talk to your OB, talk to your midwife, talk to your birthing class person if you attended one, friends who have been parents before, Google doula in your local community. And one more piece I'll say about maximizing your dollars with a doula is be your best advocate if you can. So if you can afford 2 hours of a doula, then make sure you're telling that doula exactly how you can best maximize those 2 hours. Write them a list. Be honest. Like, please don't waste my 2 hour money on this thing. It's so not what I needed. Here's the hierarchy. This must be done. Next, this would be great. If you get there, that's great.
Wow.
It's more money, and you need to maximize it. Of course you do. So absolutely being honest, saying, this is where I can use the help. This is where I need you to focus. Funds are tight. I'm really grateful to have you here for 2 hours, and this is really going to set me up well.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that idea, because that's the last thing we think about when we're going to take someone into our home. It's like, oh, whatever. You want to do what it is.
But remember, it's valuable dollars. It's valuable time for you to have it there. Absolutely. Put them to work. As a doula, I want to be put to work, and I'll go around and find things if I need to. But I definitely would rather know what you wanted done first and foremost. How I can best support you.
Yeah. I love that. Emma, I know we're almost at time. I want to thank you for chatting.
Thank you so much.
This is just a topic that comes up so much in discussions, especially around single mamas being like, do I not need? What do I pay for pre-baby? How do I feel supported when I'm solo parenting? And so I think opening up the world of doulas and all of the options that are available to people is so important. So thanks for talking us through all of it. And thank you for being Ellie and my number one support for the past 2.5 years. We adore you. And thanks so much for going through it all with us today. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. For more information about the podcast or me, go to youandmekidpod.com. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you or your company are looking to jump into the podcast world, now is the time. The Plug Agency is here to connect you to the full power of podcasting. You just record and leave the rest to us. The people are listening and want to hear from you. theplug-agency.com. That's theplug-agency.com. Click the link in the episode description for an exclusive offer.